Friends, Cowboy Joe Boo here with the Joe Boo Report. It's time for our first take on the Dallas Cowboys. Of course, they can never stop talking about the Dallas Cowboys. Today, Jay Novacek says even if Tony Romo's healthy, he'd stick with Dak Prescott. Now, as always, friends, I want to thank you for subscribing to the Joe Boo Report. And if you haven't, the little picture of me over here in the corner with Sean Lee, click on that so that way you can subscribe to it.
Let's do it.
Now let's
Former
go to the
Cowboy
tape.
and three-time Super Bowl champion Jay Novacek weighed in on what should happen when Tony Romo returns. Take a listen.
When Tony's ready to play, I'd sure enough start Dak, and just always have that little backup situation going there. If things aren't going quite right, then you put Tony in. I think eventually he'll probably end up starting as long as he's healthy and everything's going great. But right now, those first few games back, I would kind of let him get back into the feel of things before I throw him right in there as a starter.
Novacek, of course, catching passes from Troy Aikman. He was a part of those great 90s Cowboys teams. Stephen A., do you agree with him when he says he should stick with Dak even when Romo returns?
Well, again, I've said from day one, that depends on how Dak is looking at the time that Tony Romo is eligible to come back. I don't think 4 games sets the stage for the new guy to dethrone Tony Romo, even though I think that Tony Romo is impotent come postseason time. He doesn't get anything done. He does put up stellar numbers during the regular season and manages to win games on occasion. I think that what it comes down to is simply this, and I've said this from day one. It doesn't matter what the Cowboys' record is, or what their record is. If Dak Prescott is balling out up to the moment that Tony Romo arrives, you leave Tony Romo's behind on the bench. You move into a different era. Because at 36 years of age, with 2 back surgeries in the last 3 years, or 2 back injuries rather, in the last 3 years, along with a couple of other injuries, he is breaking down before our very eyes. Jerry Jones is on the record that he's not getting any younger. We understand the ineptitude that is the moribund Dallas Cowboys franchise, who hasn't won a Super Bowl in more than 2 decades, who had back-to-back 8-8 seasons where they lost the final regular season of a game with the NFC East crown on the line. They had a 12-4 record. It was the catch that wasn't the catch, and that was their best season in the last 20 years. 10 of those years, Tony Romo has been the quarterback for this franchise. He has not gotten it done. He has not produced it in the postseason. And as a result, you get to a point in time where the years is not something that Jerry Jones can count on in terms of being added to his life. Time is running out. He is on the record saying so I don't feel off the cuff by saying that. And as a result, you've got to go with your best opportunity. There's something to be said for continuity, fluidity rather, and so on and so forth. And if they have that with Dak Prescott, what the hell are you messing with that for? You leave it alone, you flow with it, and you ride into a new era with this dude because he is a young stud who has the poise, and more importantly, the team is clicking with him. You don't interrupt that, revisit it in the offseason, but as of right now, you flow with what is because it is working for you. And God knows there's been very little that has flowed for the Dallas Cowboys franchise over the last 2+ decades. Leave well enough alone. Don't push your luck because you haven't had much of it.
I would say this. Of course, if he's balling out of control, you got to leave Dak in there. If the Cowboys are like 6-1, 7-1, something like that, you got to leave him in there. That's the history of the league. I always bring up Kurt Warner, who not only got his job because of an injury, but then lost it to Mark Bulger, who was never as good as Kurt Warner because, St. Louis was something like 8 straight wins at the time, something like that. And so he kept the job, even if it's not because of the quarterback. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If the system's working, you stay with it. I don't expect either one of those things to happen. I think Dak is an excellent young quarterback. I think he's the real deal. Love him. As a Giants fan, wish they could find a guy like that in the draft because that looks like a franchise quarterback moving forward, but he is a rookie. And teams will start preparing for him. And I expect teams to start having better success against him, particularly as Dallas starts to play some real teams. They haven't really played that many tough teams so far. They have a loss week 1 to the Giants, and then they've played, the Bears and the Browns. I mean, come on, that's the reality. So considering that they're probably more likely to be 5-4 or 4-5 by the time Romo gets back, and Dak will be playing well, but maybe not setting the world on fire by that point, then you got to bring in Tony Romo, who, let's not forget, Stephen A., I think you're hard on him in the playoffs. One pass away, which that call could have gone either way. I think they got the call right, but it was that close to getting to the NFC Championship game not that long ago, and he's 13-3. He's 13-3 in his last 16 games.
Stop with your blasphemy. How much time was left on the clock, even if Des Bryant had caught that pass?
I don't remember offhand.
There was about more, I don't remember offhand either, but if my memory serves, I don't remember offhand, but I think it was more than 2 minutes. Aaron Rodgers at Lambeau Field against that Dallas Cowboys defense. I don't care if he had caught the pass. They would have found a way to lose that game.
But they were very much in that
don't
game.
Give me that.
You're right. I shouldn't say the game was over at that
where
point.
we going.
They were very much in that game. They could have easily won it. By the way, on the road against the Packers. Yeah, and Tony Romo can play.
Listen, man.
That's where he's going, Damien. That's where he's going,
Damien. In his last 16 games.
Here's my thing. Why are we talking about a game that was like an eternity ago? Both of y'all sound like y'all both of y'all sound like y'all tap dancing like Gregory Hines. Just call it what it is.
First of all, you stole my line. First of all, you just stole my line.
That's mine.
And secondly,
that is
watch
mine.
your mouth. You watch your mouth.
Both of y'all out
You
here
watch your
tap
mouth.
dancing right now. My thing is this. Here's the deal.
I don't tap
It is time to turn the page. You know why? Because in football, more so than any other sport, your best ability is your availability. And Tony Romo is not an available quarterback. Tony Romo, throughout his career, has basically been an 8-8 quarterback. Would you agree with that, Stephen A. Smith? He's been an 8-8 quarterback.
I've said this for how many years?
He's
You got that from me. You got that from me.
He's been an 8-8 quarterback. So if you are an 8-8 quarterback, I would rather ride with a rookie who has upside, who you can develop with the skilled players that the Dallas Cowboys have on that team, the offensive line that they have, Zeke Elliott in the backfield, Des Bryant. I would rather put my chances on Dak Prescott than somebody who's just broken down, who's hobbling out on the field. Forget about it. I'm rolling with Dak. I'm turning the page. I'm moving forward.
Whoa. You can continue to talk. First of all, I have a couple of questions. Number one, don't be disrespectful. You're a guest. Number two, don't steal my line, because that was my line about the Gregory Hines. Don't steal my line.
My mama told me, if you come over somebody's house more than once, then you can go in somebody else's refrigerator. You're not a guest anymore.
And Stephen A., he must have been at a lot of people's houses more than once.
Why we got to do that?
I've kicked my feet up on the table. I'm not a guest anymore.
Why we got to bring up Mama Woody? You know I can't refute that. I can't refute Mama Woody. Watch your mouth. That's number two. Number three, don't steal my lines with the tap dance.
No.
Last but not least, here's my question. My question, Damien, is this. Question. So, if Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys are struggling, you're telling me that under no circumstances do you consider bringing Tony Romo back in if he's healthy?
Listen, I'm all about the long-term vision. Long-term. Why hamper the development of Dak Prescott to bring in a quarterback that's broken down between the clavicle, the shoulder, the back? What more are you gonna get out of Tony Romo? He's been playing behind arguably the best offensive line in the league, and every other game something happened. He broke down here or there. So
I'm not about to defend Tony Romo.
Why even bother? I'm not
about to defend. I'm getting ready to answer your question. I'm not about to defend Tony Romo because I've always said if Dak Prescott is balling, you leave him in there. But at the same time, because he's just a rookie and because he has his whole future ahead of him, if the Dallas Cowboys for some reason find themselves struggling on offense with Dak Prescott at some juncture before Tony Romo returns, once he's eligible to return, I don't think you leave him sitting down under that condition this season. Dak Prescott is clearly the future, but with now being the priority, if he finds himself struggling over the next 5 or 6 weeks, now we got a different argument. But as of right now, I think you stay with that.
But here's my thing. The Dallas Cowboys aren't an old team. They got a bunch of young players on that team. So if I'm the Dallas Cowboys, I'm looking at the Dallas Cowboys saying, listen, we got a chance to develop a young quarterback to go along with all this young talent that we have. Even if we do struggle, the payoff is going to come in the long. If the payoff is coming in the long term.
You're not considering something.
What is it, Max? What is it?
That when Mama told you that you could go into someone else's fridge, it's probably because you were eating her out of house and home.
Well, I was. I'm not denying that.
That way, she sends you to someone's house one time.
Mama could have knocked you out. Mama could have knocked you out. That's what the problem was. He could have knocked you out.
So these are lines we're throwing out now? Are these the lines we're throwing out?
Week on a Wednesday. Can Tony Romo just come back so we can stop debating this and figure out what the heck's going to happen? That's all I want.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's see what the record is. Let's see how he's playing. That's what it's going to come down to.
We will leave it there.
Seems
Thank
like they
you
did
so
a whole lot of talking, but really didn't say much. I'm Cowboy Joe Boo, and thanks for watching the Joe Boo Report.